Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sherry Nowak. I'm the Associate Vice President of Human Resources here at Mott Community College. I'm here to welcome you and to say congratulations on your retirement. I'm also here to introduce Dr. Beverly. So Dr. Beverly, as I'm sure you all know, is the president of Mott Community College. She's also a strong advocate of our employees' experience. She's also a proponent of recognizing those who have contributed to the history of Mott, like yourselves. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce Dr. Beverly. Oh, okay. This is not Dr. Beverly.
No, this is not Dr. Beverly. Dr. Beverly said, you go up instead of me. My name is Ann Figueroa. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees. And I didn't get on the program, but I'd like to welcome you all. Being a retiree is a joyous thing. I myself am a retiree. So spread the word. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Yes, we all love it, don't we? So this event is for you and appreciating all the hard work you did here at Mott over the years. And I know I continually hear of, oh, the person who was here before me did a wonderful job, and what a wonderful family we had. There were hard times, I'm sure, but overall, it's a warm and wonderful place to work, and that's because of you. So you mentored new employees, you brought them in, and you trained them. So thank you very much. And now we'd like to introduce Dr. Beverly.
Thank you very much, Ann. Well, I'd also like to welcome all of our honored retirees and guests here because we're here to celebrate you for the many years of dedicated and committed service that you have provided to this college. You have given and given and given. And so I would like right now, if I can have all of the retirees to please stand so we can see you. Woohoo! When you look at all of our retirees, they represent 15 different departments from across our college. They're in different campus locations, just different. But what they all have in common is passion. Passion for helping our students succeed. And they have truly defined for us what it means to work hard, work as a family, and to be dedicated to the work that you do. The retirees, if you looked at all of them as they are leaving us, they are taking with them 582 years of service. Let's give them a hand. And that means a lot to us that you have done that. But I want to highlight 7 people that have given more than 30 years of service to Mott Community College, and their total is 241 years. So almost half is coming from 7 people. The very first person I'd like to introduce is Mr. Dennis Hughes, who has 31 years of service. Dennis, would you please? We also have, and they are not here today, but Rodney Barber and Thomas Cornell, who have 32 years of service. So let's celebrate them. Clarence Baldwin has 33 years of service. Not to be topped, Dolores Sharp has 35 years of service. And I can't believe it keeps getting higher. Andretta Newton has 37 years of service. And then, of course, we've honored her before, but Abby Johnson has 41 years of service. exceptional, exceptional what has been brought to us with each one of these individuals to their positions. You are, each one of you retirees, bright lights that have pointed us forward to meet our community's needs. With you, we have excelled being this community's anchor, safe haven, and economic driver. We are this community's college because of the untiring commitment and dedication you have made to service. Thank you all, each one of you, for opening the door to so many who never thought that they would earn a college credential. May your lights continue to burn fervently in your next stage of life on your life's journey. May your times be filled with blessings, with joy, productive endeavors, and enriching experiences. I can't say that we're not going to miss you, because we are. We're going to miss each one of you. Every time I want to look down the highway or find who's hiding in the back office in the RTC and, you know, all those kinds of things, you're not going to be there with us. But I can promise you this: we are going to continue to keep your lights burning, because we know that this is your legacy. And so, as I conclude, I want to thank you and just be grateful as the president. I am so grateful that you have chosen to work at Mott Community College, that you stayed and you completed your journey here, that you have allowed us to honor you today for your exceptional work. Remember, you will always, always, forever remain a Mott point of light that will continue to guide us through our next journey. Happy retirement.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Gilly, Dean of Arts and Humanities, and I'm relatively new. I've been here for 3 months, so I'm very honored to be able to give some words to our adjuncts and our professor who are retiring. So the first person is Robert Sapinski, who I had the honor of meeting shortly after I started here, and we had a wonderful conversation. And I can confirm that his reflections that he gave to me on his time at Mott Community College really reflect those that he wrote in his personal statement that a colleague shared with me. He said, "As I teach, I want students to delve into questions of meaning and purpose, and while examining their lives and the society around them, and feel empowered to apply this to their lives," which I think has even more meaning now. We were discussing at our table. He was a very engaged and a lively instructor. As all his colleagues said, he reflected a lot, and he was really interested in developing his competencies with new technology when they made the shift in COVID. So he's really willing to embrace new thought, and that just transferred so well into the classroom. So we're very honored to have had him as our philosophy instructor. Does he come up later? Oh, you can come on up. So it's hard going first. You have to like show everyone how it's done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we have to get a picture. With me?
Yes.
Okay. Here? Oh. Now everyone will know how to. So we have two more honorees out of Arts and Humanities, and Bob Rentschler, who's not here, but I will say a few words about him. I've worked with him a bit since I've been here, and he's a very strong proponent of photography as both a career and an art form. He's inspired many, many students, including one of our current adjuncts, Kim Wamers, who became an adjunct after being his student. And I'm sure many students would echo her thoughts. This is what she told me. Mr. Rentschler inspires his students year after year by encouraging them to create and improve their photography with one simple question: why am I taking this photo? Helping his students understand the motivation behind each and every photograph was at the very core of his teaching methodology. Over the past 13 years, I have been his student, lab technician, and finally fellow photography instructor. Over that time, I've observed him go from teaching a class straight to meetings, grading papers, preparing for the next day's class, or catching up on reading and research. Nonetheless, he would never let the size of his workload affect his excitement for the craft or his classroom. He's always been a wonderful instructor with so much passion for his work and love for his students. His retirement will leave a gaping hole in the hearts of his students and all that knew and worked with him at Mott. So, that's Bob, who's not here, but we can clap for him anyway. Just they're going to send him his package. And then finally, last but not least, is Arthur Orem, who I just had the pleasure of meeting and talking to. And I learned, among many other things, that he's a dedicated beekeeper and also an avid clarinet player, in addition to being an adjunct professor of English and developmental English. He taught for many, many years at our Clio site, and Tom Salins there probably knew him the best, and he told me this about Art. He said, Mr. Orem taught at this site for many, many years. He was a popular instructor that cared deeply about his students. What I remember most about him was how warm, calm, and friendly he always was, which is very true, I will say. His kindness was genuine and radiated from him, making him very approachable to students. I know most students refrain from engaging with an instructor, but Art's affable nature was something that made him a better and more effective teacher. And so, Art, if you want to come up, great.
Guess I'm next. So we're here to talk about Keith Fry. I've known Keith a very long time. I knew Keith when we were both in undergrad school at Central Michigan University. And I was lucky enough to hire him 20 years ago when he happened to apply for a job here coming to us from Saginaw Valley State University. And anyone who has worked with Keith usually has a good story to tell about Keith. Keith was the guy that was always upbeat, happy, personable. You probably had a hallway conversation or two with him over the years. He was always happy to help out in the classroom, faculty with whatever you needed to get your classroom up and running, equipment, all with a very happy and jovial demeanor. I had a lot of people tell me over the years what a great guy Keith was. They were so happy that he was working for Mott. When Keith first came to us, he was a video production technician in the studio. We were doing lots of telecourses back at the time, even with another retiree, Dennis Hughes. As I see him out in the crowd, we did a lot of video production together, and Keith was part of that as well. And eventually he transitioned over to more of the AV delivery component of our department. And he really had a good sense of purpose about what he did. Keith really he was a graduate of Mott, and he took this place to be his second home, and he really, you could tell in his work. And in one of the things that people always say is Keith always had isms, Keithisms, and for those of you that knew Keith, you know what those are. So he was just a neat guy to be around. It's not the same not having him here anymore. I wish he could be here today to join us, but he is otherwise indisposed at the moment with some personal things. But I want to say thank you, Keith, for your 20 years of service to Mott, and you are missed.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Asman. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs. And those of you who know me know I've been here at the college now for 3 years. 2 of those years happened during the pandemic, and during that time, our testing center was closed for the most part. But in the time that I got to work with her, I got to know that Ann Arnheimer was a fabulous colleague, dedicated to her profession and loved by her colleagues. She created an environment that was open and welcoming to students, and when the testing center ran, it ran very well. She understood the compliance rules that go along with testing and was very well respected for that. And I've worked at a lot of colleges, you guys, and to have a testing center that runs without complaints is amazing. And so when you see Ann, please congratulate her on that. Thank you. And now I'm going to pretend to be Jason Wilson for a second. He could not be here today. And for those of you who also know me, you've been telling me to delegate for a while. I finally learned how to do that today. And I asked some of our colleagues to come up and talk about the people that they know best from their time here. So our next retiree is Andretta Newton, and Margaret Boursier is going to come up and say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is she up there? Yes, she is. Andretta Newton and I worked at Mott close to the same amount of time. We both were admins, and we got to know each other because we attended college together. We were often forming study groups in our team building assignments. She was my reliable, faithful study buddy. Andretta was quiet and steady. She had worked for Lou Miller and then Michelle Glenn with the Perkins funding for the college. When she moved up to supervision, I was her cheerleader. She was always professional and dependable, quietly working away in her office. Andretta was part of the academic affairs team, so we gathered for birthdays, retirements, meetings, and became better friends for it. We all shifted and struggled during COVID, and as her world was her children and her grandchildren, I know it was challenging for her not to be able to see them during that time. I am happy that she has more time now that she has retired to be with her family, even though they're fighting over her. I value her friendship, and I hope that she does mine as well. Thank you, Andretta, for your years of service. Come on up. Come on up.
So the next person that we would like to honor is a friend of mine, a confidant, and somebody who, in her last years here, was one of those people telling me to delegate very much. In fact, she asked me today if I was taking time off. There's many things I could say about Dolores Sharp. We worked very closely together. And Dolores, I'm grateful for your support, especially coming up to the wire. I know it was a challenging time for all of us, and it was greatly appreciated. But I've only known Dolores for 3 years, and her friend and colleague, Rebecca Maizinski, has known her much longer, and I thought could speak better to their time together.
Do you trust me, Dolores? We go way back. So I just want to say, when I started here at the college, I was down at our Southern Links branch campus, and we had our thing going on down there with the PTA and OTA programs, and we got pretty comfortable. Would come up here a few days a month for meetings, but outside of the health science division, I really didn't know anybody. And the first person that truly connected me outside of health sciences was Dolores Sharp. And I remember going down to your office, and it was summer, and I'm like, you work year-round? You do this 52 weeks a year? Oh, Dolores, what are you thinking? Well, the joke's on me now, because I'm in her office, and I'm 52 weeks a year. And I just remember, so somewhere you planted a seed that I just admired, and I admired your work ethic. I admired what you did. Well, then the next thing you know, I'm getting pretty acclimated at my faculty role, and then became an administrator. And 9 out of 10 times when I was trying to figure out program development, what it meant for a little certificate versus a big certificate to CPSC, I could go on and on. The questions were, ask Dolores, ask Dolores, ask Dolores. Dolores was on speed dial on my phone, and every crazy idea I had, she'd listen. And 9 out of 10 times, we had something produced. And I don't know how it happened. I'd throw ideas, and the next thing you know, we had agreements, we had partnerships, and everybody was showcasing the work of her expertise. My biggest admiration, Dolores, is your work with the dual enrollment and the middle colleges. What we have today, I want to give you credit for all the expertise that you've provided. So not only have you been a friend, you're big shoes to fill, and I just want to acknowledge you and congratulate you on your retirement.
So next, we would like to honor Cherry Wagenlander, the Executive Director of the Center of Early and Middle College Partnerships. And if you know anything about the world of middle colleges, you've heard of Cherry. And I couldn't think of a better person to speak to her commitment to the middle college development than her successor, Margaret Green.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, though, before I talk about Cherry, I need to give a big shout out to Dolores. Dolores Sharp, you have taken such good care of us. We've spent a lot of time in the office, and you have supported, just like what was said, you have supported that early college world, and I appreciate that. And Keith Fry, every time I had a technology problem in that auditorium, he came in and we would talk Greta Van Fleet stories. He had great stories. So, I mean, amazing folks. Cherry Wagenlander, good Lord, I don't even know where to start. This is what I do when I meet with parents. I say she is the godmother, the guru, and the grandmother of all things early college in the state of Michigan. And I think she had a vision, and I think listening to her stories, which I swear to God, we're going to work on a memoir for her. This woman had visions when she was, I only know her stories when she was at Flint Central, running for political office there, and they're great stories. She had visions. Her big vision for this middle college movement in the late 80s, and she put together a team that created Mott Middle College, the very first middle college in the state, the 12th in the nation on this campus. This campus is the center. It couldn't have happened without, what Mott Community College committed to little ninth graders running around. They're still doing that. They're 13. They're on a college campus. They're not normal humans. Y'all know that. It takes a while to get them trained into these philosophies. You need to know that it is not like any normal local school, because what we teach those kids is how to be really good humans, and that takes time. And you have supported them, you care for them, and that is all because of what Cherry believed in. She believed in these really deep philosophies of choice theory. And there's no bells, there's no detentions, there's very few suspensions. It's such a counseling world. That's Cherry, the counselor, the inner counselor. If you walk into the main entrance of the Mott Memorial Building now, since for a few months now, we've got a plaque with that gorgeous picture of Cherry, and in the spring we're going to plant a lilac tree. And every time you walk in there, you got to think about this guru, this godmother, this grandmother of all things Middle College. What she has built in this state is unusual. There's not another state that does what has been done here, and it's all because of Cherry. I could go on. It is. This is the original model, the OG model. It takes kids that would otherwise not be necessarily going to college, and it says, 1, you can. 2, community college is an amazing place to be, and that is a story that I think all of us need to continue to carry on. I had to follow in her footsteps as principal. I finished that in August, and now I'm following in her footsteps as the Michigan Early College Director, working here for the college, and I couldn't be more proud. I do Tuesdays with Cherry because I need advice, and so if you want to join that and get advice from somebody who knows their stuff, it's the best place ever. So at 78, Cherry Wagenlander, sorry, I threw your age out there, woman. She decided that she should retire, and I couldn't be more happy for her and her husband, Fred, and her daughter, Katie, and her son, John. They're amazing humans. Congratulations, Cherry Wagenlander. Cherry can't get up right now. I don't know if you guys can move over towards her. Maybe we can shift her chair around.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Christy Dolly, Assistant Vice President of Human Resources, and I'm here to brag about Sylvia Green. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I have the years right. For 25 years, 5 months, and 19 days, but who's counting? Sylvia served the college in the Human Resources Department. During her time with Mott, she held the titles of HR Assistant, HR Coordinator, Comp and Benefits Administrator, HR Generalist 1, and HR Generalist 2. Regardless of her title, for over 25 years, Sylvia provided HR services to the employees of the college. At the time of her retirement, she was seen not only as a pillar of the institution, but as a valuable resource and a great friend to many. I was privileged to be able to work with Sylvia on and off as her supervisor for over 14 years. She exemplified hard work and dedication, not only to her profession, but also to the college and its employees. I know that I can speak for more than just myself when I say that Sylvia is missed. We miss her wealth of knowledge, professionalism, hard work, smiling and welcoming face, and I personally also miss the updates about her family with whom she is very close and all of us in HR have gotten to know. I also really miss the laughs and eye rolls that she and I would exchange when the inevitable crazy happened in HR. We sure have had a lot of laughs, Sylvia. I truly hope that you're enjoying your retirement, that you're traveling and gambling as you wish. You deserve all the rest and relaxation. Thank you, Sylvia. Oh, good.
Hello, everyone. As you might know, I'm here by myself, but out of the many years, I was never by myself with Vera Jenkins and Mary Yarbrough. Jelani, you're probably going to do a little go back and forth here because I'm going to talk about them separately, but I will talk about them together. These two employees, and you'll see Vera here, were inextricably tied together. Their destiny between Vera and Mary, they worked at Hurley Medical Center before coming here, and I had the great pleasure of working with these ladies for some 25 years. Now, over the time, of course, you go through what you have to do with the job, but there were many instances that we celebrated, we watched, we cried, we lived through weddings, graduations, births, but the crying was through death. But through death, we were able to bond together and pull each other through. And so I'm very pleased to talk about them today. However, I thought that this day would never come. I thought they'd be here when I was leaving, but they fooled me, didn't they? Well, Vera has gone on to follow her passion, and she always wanted to be a supervisor and in management. So she's accomplished that. That's probably why she's not here today. She's working at the GISD. Mary has gone on to fulfill her life's dream of being the grandmother who babysits Monday through Thursday, but not the weekends. And so I want to just say that Vera came to us fresh off of having won a trip, complimentary trip, Ebony Magazine. There was a contest, she and her husband won it, and they went to Africa. When she came to me, she had so many rich stories to tell, and that was really life-changing for her. Now, Vera, is she still up there? Yeah. So Vera, I want to say, Dr. Beverly was a champion, a fierce champion for the #1 priority we have here, DEI. Even before it was the strategic priority, when we did minority affairs, multicultural affairs, Vera was right there for it. And so she was born of the Southern politeness and had a way of always calling people ma'am. Did she do that with you all? No, ma'am, let me just tell you, or yes, ma'am. But it was always the subtle charm that Vera had, but was very exact and demanding too. Now, Mary, as I indicated, came from Hurley Hospital, but she came from that other foundation. It was called the C.S. Mott Foundation down there on Saginaw Street. So Mary had some seasoning with what we do in terms of grant making. Now, Mary was one that never saw gray. Mary was very precise and always pushed to make sure that she understood if it's this way or that way. Really, that was good for me because she was my data manager, plus she was my bean counter for the dollars there. Mary moved on from being just Mary to Reverend Mary. And so that was kind of nice for me because at every ceremony I had that I needed an invocation, I had one right here to do it, a reverend. And so I just want to say, and I'll make it brief, that they're not here today, but I want you to know that when we started some years ago, they came as beginning resource development folks that left as seasoned resource development advancement services folks. They made friends, they looked at the relationships, they were able to do development, and really when I think about the foundation and how it's grown, I want to say, so when you all see them, you can tell them, that I want to give them credit for helping me grow this foundation from what was $194,000 that just came as a gift to, before the pandemic, $12 million. Those ladies helped to support the work that I do and actually took it on with passion. And so they can be models for people who are looking to get into this arena and to go forward. So I'm just eternally grateful for their monumental contributions. And doggone it, I wish they were here, right? But if you see them, let them know that not only were they appreciated, and I let them know each time, but I want them to know that I publicly appreciated their work. So thank you for letting me spend this time to talk about Vera Jenkins and Mary Yarborough.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Robert Matthews. I currently serve as Associate Vice President for Workforce and Economic Development. And I have the pleasure of giving remarks on behalf of Abby Johnson. And so I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but 3 words come to mind when I think of Abby. The first one is faithful. And so you heard earlier that Abby served here at the college for 41 years. And that's a decent amount of time. That's a decent amount of time, Abby. And so not just for the 41 years, but Abby served many of those years in continuing education and corporate services, and then what became lifelong learning in corporate services. And so she was a constant and stable force for that area and made sure that there was glue and continuity in practices, procedures, and a lot of things that happened. And so I want to say thanks for that, Abby, and we will never forget that. The second 2 words sometimes get interchanged, but I'll say honesty and candor, right? But they don't mean exactly the same thing. So don't ever ask Abby something that you don't want to know the truth to, right? Because she's going to tell you. And so that's the honesty part. But I'll say candor because she always delivered it in a way where you would stop and think, did she really just say that to me? You know? But there was there was humor in it in a way that would make you think about things, but also that it wouldn't hurt you, it wouldn't cut you. And so Abby, I want to thank you for that as well. And so I want to say, as you will absolutely be missed, you're already missed, but I want to say, keep that gift of honesty and candor alive in everything that you do. Keep laughing, and most of all, some of you all may not know, Abby is a phenomenal dancer. Phenomenal. And so, Abby, keep dancing. Keep dancing.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Solinsky, and today I would like to take the opportunity to recognize our very own Miss Mary Elizabeth Brooks. Mary is an intake and records processor over at the Workforce and Economic Development Division, and has been there for about 20 years. And I began working with Mary years ago. We first met at the Broom Center I didn't work closely with her up until recently, but she's always been my go-to when I want a no fluff, give it to me straight kind of answer. Mary's known in our area as the data entry queen and the folder finder. And if she can't find a folder, it probably doesn't exist. Mary manages the data entry for the majority of our databases in the division, which are attached to many of our grants, so it's very important work. She has a keen eye for compliance and detail and accuracy in keeping our student records straight. She works to make the best experience for our students, working intake, the call center, the front desk. She never meets a stranger when participants visit Workforce and Economic Development for assistance for employment, finding their career, their next career pathway, or other services. Mary welcomes them with words of encouragement and grace. She always goes above and beyond to meet the needs of the division and is committed to meet the participants where they are. We will miss her talents and experience. Mary, although you're retiring, we hope you won't be a stranger, and I think I know of some opportunities for volunteer work, perhaps VITA, our volunteer income tax assistance, or others. Voluntold. So Mary, congratulations.
Hi again. I'm back. I think we have Becky Garski. Yes. So Becky, Rebecca. I love that we share that name. And I want to say that I had the pleasure of going to the first Early Childhood Advisory Board as the transition with the role of Dean of Health and Human Services, and now as the Assistant Vice President of Career and Technical Education. And I wish I would have recorded, Margaret, how you just talked about Cherry, if I said that right, because that's every bit of how people talked about you, Becky, when they opened the meeting. I'm like, could I just record this right now? And to quote what Paula Spencer had said, and Rod when he had gone up there, was you can't go in the community and talk about early childhood without Becky's name coming up. She is a legacy, she is the foundation, and she is centered around especially Genesee County and the state on the initiatives that you've done. So it was powerful to hear. I'm sure the meeting was recorded. And the other part was I did get the pleasure of going to your actual retirement celebration. It was by Zoom. And to hear your children speak of all that you've done, it was impactful. So although I've not worked with you directly as your supervisor with all these transitions, I feel I understand the depth of who you are and what you represent and what you do for early childhood. So Rod did give me some comments that I can read as well. Thank you, Rod, for that. And he states, while some people are good at seeing the big picture or working with details, working with Becky, you will notice she is good with both the big picture and how it fits with the details. And her work ethic is amazing. She's always moving forward, always thinking of the next thing. She's a creative thinker, and she's implemented the lab coach model. And Rod goes on to say that even if you just did something and have processes in place, if there's better processes that you discover in very short order, you don't stop until you do it, until it serves everybody that you're working with. So Becky, I want to commend you for everything that you've done and if you've given to our early childhood program. right, Dennis. And I am your interim dean technology right now over career technical education. So Mike McCollum, I see you're in here. Thank you for assisting me with the remarks for Dennis. But I do want to go back, my first encounter with Dennis. Again, I'm going to go back to the old therapy days when I was housed down in our OTA and PTA programs. And I remember that there was this innovation teaching grant, anything that anybody did interdisciplinary. And I was in awe as I watched Dennis work with Wendy Early in the OTA program with his CAD, so the computer-aided design. They developed something that helped with those with fine motor skills, fine motor deficits, to be able to pick up objects either from a wheelchair with an extension or from tabletop activities. I can't even really wrap my head on what you did, but I sat there over and over looking at the innovation and your willingness to work with our programs and understanding the needs of the patients and the clients that we serve as therapists. That was my initial encounter of, wow, this place is the coolest place in the world. Did I really just get a job here? Is this really what we do, and this is what we support? And so thank you for giving me that window of what interdisciplinary work looks like across disciplines in our occupational programs. So from Mike, there we go. So Mike McCollum gave me a huge list because I think you've done about everything, from serving on just about every committee in this college to negotiating teams. And I did not realize that you were the founder of our building and construction, our CAD, and our CAM, computer-aided manufacturing certificate programs. And not only that, but you have served as an advisor. You helped with online curriculum development. And it sounds like the depth of everything that you've done in technology, those shoes can't be filled, Dennis. And that's exactly what Mike said. We're working on your job description. He's like, nobody can fill these shoes. Just so you know, he's one of a kind. So Dennis, thank you for all that you've done in all of those areas. Okay, the next two are actually not here today. So Donna Ireland Johnson, and so in my role as Dean of Health and Human Services, I was able to work with Donna on several initiatives. And I really want to showcase the work that we do in service learning. I'm looking at you, Bob, because I know you do so much now with the portrait, and you missed your kind remarks. Amy, I'm like, that job thing gets in the way, that teaching thing always gets in the way. And so I want to let this group know the Experiential Learning Advisory Committee, it really started off the work of Donna Ireland Johnson. So she taught our nutrition course in health sciences, and she took an initiative where the students went to the Flint Farmers Market, the old Flint Farmers Market. She partnered with our culinary, and not only did the students do demonstration on an education on healthy eating and nutrition, she then partnered that with culinary, so they did healthy cooking demonstrations. She built that into her curriculum, and these were the foundations of conversations that really founded the service learning that we have today, and started that interdisciplinary model as we did experiential learning. So I really wanted to acknowledge the work that Donna Ireland Johnson did in those areas, and give her some gratitude when you see her on all the work that she's done with outreach and experiential learning. All right, and Mary Beth Schmeckel, she's not here today either. So Mary Beth retired as one of our nursing faculty, and one of the things people don't realize is Annie Kreitz in our OTA program, again, that's where my roots were, that's actually Mary Beth's little sister. So I'd hear about Mary Beth all the time, and I'd never met her. Next thing you know, we're doing a high-fidelity simulation, an acute care setting, and it's part of the curriculum for the PTA program, and I meet Mary Beth. She has everything set up with case scenarios, the PowerPoint lecture, and test questions, and it was almost just flawless. I walk in, here's your test questions, here's your PowerPoint, this is what you need to, at the time, upload on Blackboard, and it was like an orchestra how well directed she did this. I just stood back and I thought, wow, talk about a teaching observation and learn how to teach. Like, everybody should just have that moment with Mary Beth. And what I loved about Mary Beth is the nurturing that she had in everything she did, but yet held all the students, colleagues, and herself to such high standards. Nobody will be able to replace Mary Beth, and she is greatly missed. So if you, again, see her, warm regards for a phenomenal career here in our nursing program.
Good afternoon. I'm Stacy Seeley, and I'm the Dean of Arts and Sciences over the Math and Sciences divisions. And I believe I'll be talking about, I have 4 faculty that have retired this year. I'm going to start with Rodney Barber. Rodney grew up in Maryland and attended Morgan State University. After graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Math, he went on to Michigan State University and completed his Master's of Science in Math. He started as a full-time instructor at Mott in 1990 and has been teaching for the last 32 years. This fall is his very last semester, and he will be retiring in December. Rodney is defined by his colleagues as the math man, since he is extremely passionate about his subject and is the defender of all things math. He was very passionate about helping students in the tutoring center, and his favorite examples that he liked to use always involve bogeys and birdies. So I'm guessing he's a golf fan. Apparently, there's absolutely nothing that he cannot do on a programmable calculator. And also, there's no other instructor that liked paper handouts as much as he did. He was not afraid to spend hours making copies at the department Xerox machine. Some of the comments made by former students include, he is the most precise math instructor ever. He taught us pure calculator magic. And my favorite, I finally understand word problems because of him. His colleagues will miss his quirky banter and continuous updates on breaking news, sports, and politics. He was the go-to guy for information. He absolutely loves to talk and always took the time to talk to his colleagues and ask about how they were doing and about their families. He is described as being hilarious, although his colleagues say most of the time it wasn't always intentional. So thank you, Rodney, for the impact that you have made at Mott. The great work that you did here ensures that you will not be forgotten anytime soon. Okay, the next person also is not here, Thomas Cornell. Tom completed a Bachelor of Arts and a Master's of Science in Biology at Oakland University, and he started teaching at Mott in 1994 and taught for us for the last 28 years. He is described as being very meticulous and being an old school instructor. He taught multiple biology courses, zoology being his absolute favorite. He held his students to high standards and was very thorough in his instruction. His colleagues say that he was always prepared and often would set up his labs days, sometimes even weeks in advance. Everything had a particular spot, and it would be perfectly spaced out. And if you accidentally bumped into something or moved something and it wasn't in that precise spot, he would figure it out. Some of the comments made by former students include, he gets you to understand biology as opposed to just learning nuggets of facts for a test. He's a great guy, funny as heck. And he is a great teacher. I like how he requires us to actually learn the material and not just memorize. I was reluctant to take a biology class, but I'm so glad that I did. One of Tom's colleagues said that you could always count on him. He was very matter-of-fact, and one might even say blunt. In his free time, he loved to go to travel and go on cruises. He also loved trivia and loved going to hair band concerts, those are things like Kiss, Def Leppard, Night Ranger. He absolutely loved knickknacks. He liked to fill his office with them, and each one had meaning, and again, each one had a particular spot. So congratulations, Tom, on your retirement. May your future be filled with the things that you always wanted to do, but never could find the time. Okay, now I get to honor Christine Hughes, who's actually here. That's nice. So she goes by Tina. Tina completed her Bachelor's of Arts in Mathematics at U of M Flint before moving on to Eastern Michigan University, where she completed her master's degree in mathematics. She was a teacher at Grand Blanc High School, I didn't know this, for many years before starting her distinguished career here in 1997. Tina retired in August 22nd after serving as a full-time faculty member for the last 25 years. That's the day I met her. It was like my second day. As I was coming in, she was leaving, handing me her keys. Some of the comments made by former students include, she can answer nearly any question you have, and she explains advanced topics in layman's terms. Her teaching style is adaptive to nearly all learning styles, and she provides learning materials that pave the way for you. Also, one student said, I feel like all those years that I spent hating math were a waste. I wish that every instructor made sure that the material that they were presenting was this clear. So it's very clear that Tina is well known for her truly exemplary teaching. Her colleagues stated that she has a way of imparting knowledge in a straightforward fashion while always providing real-life applications of the course material. She just has a knack for engaging students, and there's never any lack of entertainment in her classes. In addition to her outstanding teaching, Tina was extremely dedicated to service, both to Mott and to the community. She mentored students in STEM Scholars programs, participated in STEM recruitment days at local high schools, and she volunteered her time to the Science and Math Olympiads and as a science fair judge. Most notably, Tina dedicated a significant amount of her time to the fish program each year. She solicited donations, shopped for food, clothing, gifts, wrapped, delivered everything to the fish families each year, every year, year after year after year. And she did all of this nearly single-handedly. In 2020, she was recognized for her outstanding service contributions when she was the recipient of the Mott's Employee Community Service Award. When she wasn't working, Tina liked to spend time with her family. She especially enjoyed going up north in the summers. Tina is an avid runner and very talented athlete overall. She completed numerous triathlons and is very dedicated to fitness. Tina's colleagues will definitely remember and miss her energy, her wit, and her great sense of humor. They describe her as being absolutely hilarious and a straight shooter. They always could count on her to deliver an on-point, timely, sarcastic remark during the division meetings. Since her departure, they say that the meetings just have not been the same. Congratulations, Tina, on an outstanding career, and thank you for your dedication. We wish you the very best as you embark on this new journey. Okay, now we'd like to recognize Jack Peoples. Jack completed a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering at Purdue University, and after graduating, he worked as a licensed engineer at various places, including Pontiac Metal Fab at GM. While working as an engineer, he switched gears and then pursued a master's degree in economics from Wayne State University that specializing in banking. Jack started teaching economics classes as a part-time instructor at Mott in 2005, and he's been teaching for us for the last 17 years. Jack was always a reliable faculty member, very flexible, and willing to step up and take on a full-time temporary role when we needed him to. He knew his subject very well and was described as being a tough but fair instructor. Jack's lectures were always very relevant, informative, and interesting. He was very good at keeping students engaged and encouraged them to make the connections between the theory that he presented and the real world. One of his colleagues laughingly said that Jack was a proud Luddite, which I may or may not had to look up what that actually was. But that is a person that is opposed to new technology and ways of working. So I thought that was funny. He was very proud of that. A former student stated, "I was amazed by Professor Peoples' ability to reach out and draw the students into the topic, and that they would take a class again with him in a heartbeat." Another said he loved how passionate Professor Peoples was about economics, and he had amazing, excellent class activities that he used to solidify the lecture material. His colleagues will miss his festive holiday wear during Halloween and Christmas, and his peculiar and dry sense of humor. One colleague described his sense of humor very in detail when he told a story about his first interaction with Jack. He said, "When I met Jack, it was on my first day of classes. We were in the part-time econ instructor's office, and I'm sure he saw that I was visibly nervous. He completely ignored me, except to tell me not to use his trash can. I was taken aback and totally confused. However, it distracted me from my nervousness on the first day of lecturing. I later ran into Jack several months later, and the first thing I blurted out to him was, 'I haven't used your trash can.' He looked at me very puzzled and confused, and so I explained to him our first encounter. He laughed out loud for a long amount of time and said that he was absolutely just joking and just trying to take his mind off his, what he called, baptismal lecture. He also did give him permission to use the trash can after that. So we hope you have a wonderful retirement, Jack. You will definitely be missed.
Clarence Baldwin, I think, is more than I can think of to say about Clarence over the years. We worked together, I think, 20-some-odd years together. And no matter what you do, you have to have someone that you can depend on, someone that's reliable. And Clarence has been that person for me for the over 20-something years. We worked on projects all summer, every summer, for 20-some-odd years together. And I never had to worry about the job getting done. Clarence said, I got it, Tim. And no matter what, I can come in on a Saturday, Sunday. Clarence said, well, probably why you here? Because Clarence always was there to make sure it's taken care of. And he don't know how much that means to me, to have someone that if I couldn't be there, Clarence was there for me. And I really appreciate that, Clarence. And I wanted to say to you that you have been missed the day you left. And the only thing I have to say is that he promised me one thing that he didn't fulfill. He's promised me he's going to take me fishing. And that's been 20-some years, but I know you're coming. Okay? But Clarence is one of those individuals you can always count on, and no matter what, he's dependable. And so, again, congratulations on your retirement. You have truly missed, and just don't stop coming by, saying hello, okay? Diane couldn't be here today, but Diane is one of those people that she always told me, Tim, what's going on. And she said, Tim, you know we got this event that we have to cover. And I said, oh, is that? And she always brought me on point, said, Tim, I got it covered, but I want you to know that we need some people here this afternoon. And you didn't tell me to call somebody in, but she took care of all that for me. And like I say, she was just like Clarence. She was very dependable. And she always took control of everything that needs to be done before I even knew it sometimes. And I couldn't tell you how much that means. Like I say, you have to have some people you depend on. You can't run a department without having someone that can always be there for you. So I wanted to say congratulations to Diane, and I hope she have many years of enjoyable retirement.
So now you know why I call them Mott Points of Light, right? Let's give them another hand. Please know that we are so grateful for your service. We appreciate all that you have brought to this college. We appreciate what you have done to ensure that we always move forward. You will always remain in our hearts. We will continue your legacy. Thank you. Thank you for serving here at Mott Community College. And this concludes our program.